I was in the middle of doing a pilot for ABC, and Greg called me up and said, "Hey, I'm going to direct the short movie." I'd worked on it with him, so I knew what he was doing. And he said, "Do you want to be in it?" And I said, "This is the week I'm producing. I can't do it. We're in production." He goes, "I really wanted you to play the Wolfman. We're going to do a transformation like they did in the 40s." And I literally moved the production a day.
You should see it, Gil. It's fun.
And to do it, because it's like, how do you not do that?
Oh, my God, yeah.
And it's itchy as hell. It's itchy as hell.
What's funny
no
about
wonder Lon drank.
Even when I was a kid and I'd watch these transformations, I knew how they did it.
Yeah.
I could figure it out. But I think they're still so much more effective than when they do the computerized morphing.
I heard the most brilliant thing, and it's attributed to Roger Ebert, and I just heard it the other day. And it's actually something that I hammered home on Stand Against Evil, because that's 98% practical effects. And that's that. It was about stop motion animation. It's like King Kong.
Yeah.
Stop motion looks fake but feels real.
Yes.
CGI looks real but feels fake.
That's interesting.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. That's brilliant. That's exactly it. I can always tell, even the best CGI I can tell.
Because with King Kong, I mean, that was like the most primitive stop action. And I mean, as a kid, I knew exactly it was a miniature doll. Yeah. And yet, when you watch that, you know you could touch King Kong.
Yeah.
And you don't feel like in the new King Kong movies you can't touch
it's not tactile. There's no tactile. And you know what's funny? When you look at the original King Kong, it looks like his fur is moving.
Yes. Yeah.
That's the animator's thumb. That's when they grab the armature to move it. It's his thumbprints, but it looks great.
People started praising them.
Yeah.
Saying what a brilliant idea to have his hair stand on end in those scenes.
And my friend my friend Bob Burns owns King Kong, the 18-inch armature.
Oh, we got to get Bob on the show. How's he doing?
Bob's good. He's actually doing very well.
Good.
He is.
We should talk to Bob Burns.
I was wondering how he was doing, because I'd love to talk to Bob.
You can Skype him or come out. I don't know if he's flying anywhere soon, but
we'll do a Skype with him.
Yeah. I could set that up for him.
I would love to talk to
Bob's
Burns.
the best. Bob's great. Bob's great. And stories out, and he'll tell you stories about Lon Chaney Jr. stuff. He told me this story. The most amazing thing that I've ever happened, like one of those. I know Bob very well. You know, I'm a monster guy, and I'm in the monster circles. I don't know how else to put it. I don't know. You know, you either know who Forrest Ackerman was or you don't.
Exactly.
Yeah. At Bob Burns' house, I have held in my hand the flying saucer. Bob Burns, I've held in my hand Joan Crawford's bush. The flying saucer that Ed would, bucket of shit
from Judy Garland. I held in my hand.
The flying saucer from Plan 9 from Outer Space.
Oh, wow.
That's
cool. You can see the holes drilled into it. You can see the square that they glued on the bottom to make it match the set.
And I remember he told a story that when Lon Chaney Jr. died, nobody wanted to bother to talk about him.
No.
And I think, he gathered a lot of enemies over the years because he was a drunk and everything. But he went over to Glenn Strange's house.
Yeah, well, Glenn Strange was like Bob Burns's dad, really.
Yeah.
Like they were profoundly close. And Bob, as a young man, because for people who don't know, like in Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, House of Frankenstein, House of Dracula, Frankenstein Monsters, Glenn Strange. A lot of the images that people have in their mind of Frankenstein is actually Glenn Strange, not Boris Karloff.
Yes.
He was also the bartender on Gunsmoke.
Yes, he was.
When I was a kid, I remember this. Boris Karloff died, and the New York Times had a picture of Glenn Strange.
Oh, that's depressing.
I remember that, yeah. But
here's one of these things I'm very proud of knowing, even though I think old monster geeks know this. In Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, there's one part where Frankenstein throws the girl through the window, And that's Lon Chaney
it's
Jr.
Lon Chaney Jr. Yeah, it is Lon Chaney Jr.
Because
Yeah.
Glenn Strange had sprained his ankle or something.
And there's have you seen there's outtakes of that movie on YouTube? There's a reel of outtakes of Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein on YouTube that you can see.
Yeah.
There's three really fascinating things. One, there's a scene where Abbott sits on Costello sits on Glenn Strange.
Starts laughing.
And starts, which is so insane to see. And then there's another one you just see every time Lou Costello messes up, you just see Lon Chaney like shrug and go back to one. Like he's so over it.
Yeah,
He's not entertained by Lou Costello at all.
Oh,
and you can hear all the like ha 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 like people who have to be there, and he couldn't get. And then there's one where Lou Costello says the most insanely sexist thing to the actress in the scene, where I'm going to paraphrase it, but it's something to the effect of he steps on her line or something. He goes, "Oh, I'm sorry," and she goes, "Oh, it's okay." And she goes, "Okay," and then he says something like, "The only time it's going to be okay is when you say go, and then it's okay, and you just hang on."
Oh,
it's like she just like smiles.
And then there's
it's just this
also
awful.
What was the name of? I forget his name. Abbott and Costello's friend that they hired to be a kibitzer.
Right.
On
I know the guy you're talking about. The guy that plays Mr. McDougal.
No, it's not Mr. McDougal. But he does pop up in the movie.
Uh-huh.
He's like some little...
What are you talking about? Not Bobby Barber.
Oh, that could be.
The little bald guy that was in the series?
I don't know.
The one Drew's obsessed with Bobby Barber.
Yeah, but
I find that hard to believe.
Yes, I know you do.
They hired him to keep the levity up on the set.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And it's like, you see him like where Lugosi's doing the scene, and he sneaks up behind Lugosi with a cape around his face, and Lugosi just kind of looks over. And it's like, if I were there too, I'd feel like, can we film this and get the fuck home?
I'm 57. I'm a morphine addict.
Yeah.
Can I just go home? Just go home and shoot up, please.
I heard you're doing a podcast about horror comedies with Maltin, with Leonard Maltin.
You have?
Yeah, you did. And
I did Leonard's show.
You did Leonard's show.
I was talking about horror comedy.
Would you call that would you call Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein the most successful of that?
Yeah, and I've been talking about this a
subgenre?
lot because of Stand Against Evil. Because there are comedies that are set in the world of horror, like Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, and then there are horror films that have comedy in them, and they're different.
Yes.
And I think Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein and Young Frankenstein are probably the two most famous horror comedies. And a movie that brought this up with Leonard Maltin that I think is painfully underrated is The Ghost of Mr. Chicken, which is a Don Knotts film that has every character actor in the 60s in it.
Yep.
And is really funny, frame one to the end of the credits. It's a great...
I haven't seen it in years, but
it's
it's sort of
great.
an outgrowth of the Griffith Show.
Absolutely.
That movie, yeah.
And it's Don Knotts is firing on all cylinders. It's really funny. It's really great. Then there are things like An American Werewolf in London, which is a horror movie, but it's funny.
Yeah.
Because the people in the horror movie are behaving sort of normally.
Yes.
Instead of in the heightened way that a horror film requires. But the horror is not aware that there's comedy going on. Like the scary stuff is scary.
Yeah.
And that's what Stand Against Evil is. It's basically a sitcom that's trapped in a horror movie. But we've been talking about that a lot. But it's hard because there are 7 trillion ways to do it wrong. And that happens all the time.
You know what gets me is like after Airplane and Naked Gun, people would watch these movies and go, oh, okay, I think I get it now. I'll make my own like that. And they're always horrible.
Yeah, they're always awful. Saturday the 14th being a great example of a terrible movie. Directed by Richard Benjamin, who's no dummy.
Yeah.
But it doesn't
made some
work.
good movies, like My Favorite Year.
Yeah. No, it's weird that they should work, and then there's movies like Beetlejuice, which on paper shouldn't work.
Yeah.
And it does work. Or Ghostbusters, which shouldn't really work.
I remember they used to try to hire. They used to figure, well, we'll get Leslie Nielsen, and then we'll just do stuff that people recognize.
Yeah, they did a Fugitive parody. And,
Oh,
and there
yes.
was
And 2001, A Space Travesty.
I don't
Is
think
that a movie?
Oh, you owe it to yourself to see it.
Do I?
Zero laugh
I think there's an Exorcist. I think
Yes,
he did one called
with-
Repossessed.
with,
Yes,
Linda
yes,
Blair.
yeah.
with Linda Blair.
Well, and then Dracula Dead and Loving It, which,
Right.
Oh,
you know, it's
yeah.
like that's we all kind of look away.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of those movies that it's like
But you
don't
go,
want to
Mel,
see.
no.
Yeah, you don't have to have you don't have to make a movie. Well, you know we talked about Ed Wood,
Yeah.
which is I think should be enshrined in the National Mall. Like that movie is so brilliant and so beautiful.
Every performance is great.
And just every frame is beautiful in that movie. And Tim Burton clearly, it resonated with him, and I think it paralleled his relationship with Vincent Price in a very strange way.
Yes.
And I ended up living that movie. I'll tell you that later. And then he makes Dark Shadows and Planet of the Apes. It's like, how can you hit it so hard and then miss it so thoroughly? You're clearly brilliant. What happens?
I don't know. Maybe it wasn't on the page.
Yeah, I don't get it.